How do you solve quadratic equations when b equals 0? When the coefficient b equals 0, the quadratic equation looks like this. ax squared plus c equals 0. In this case, you don't have to take out the big gun, the quadratic formula. There's an easier way. You simply isolate x squared and then take the square root of both sides of the equation. Let's look at an example. You want to find the solutions to the quadratic equation x squared minus 4 equals 0. In this equation, there is no bx term. So the coefficient b equals 0. You start by isolating x squared. Use the change sides, change sign rule. Move minus 4 to the right-hand side and change its sign. Now you have isolated x squared, so take the square root of both sides of the equation. Taking the square root and squaring are opposite operations, so they cancel each other out on the left-hand side. The right-hand side becomes plus or minus the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. You're left with x equals plus or minus 2. Finally, you separate the equation into two simpler equations. x1 equals 2 and x2 equals minus 2. This means that the quadratic equation x squared minus 4 equals 0 has the two solutions x1 equals 2 and x2 equals minus 2. And you are done. You have successfully found both solutions to your quadratic equation. Let's look at one more example. You want to find the solutions to the quadratic equation 2x squared minus 18 equals 0. Again, you start by isolating x squared. You can first move the constant term by using the change sides, change sign rule. You get 2x squared equals 18. Now you need to get rid of the factor 2 on the left-hand side. You do that by dividing by 2 on both sides of the equation. You get 2x squared over 2 equals 18 over 2. On the left-hand side, the 2's cancel out. On the right-hand side, you have 18 over 2, which is 9. Now take the square root on both sides of the equation to get x equals plus or minus the square root of 9. The square root of 9 is 3, and you're left with x equals plus or minus 3. Finally, you separate the equation into two simpler equations. x1 equals 3, and x2 equals minus 3. That means that the quadratic equation 2x squared minus 18 equals 0 has the two solutions x1 equals 3 and x2 equals minus 3. Be sure to notice that in both examples, the two solutions had the same numerical value, but they have opposite signs. This will always be the case when b equals 0, except when c equals 0 as well. In fact, the solutions will always be in the form x equals plus or minus the square root of minus c over a. It's also worth noting that you get the exact same solutions by using the quadratic formula. The method in this video is simply a faster and easier way to get the answers when the coefficient b equals 0. When the coefficient b equals 0, you can isolate x squared, and then take the square root of both sides of the equation.